Adam is someone that we picked in particular because he deals with a lot of small businesses, and he knows all about the cloud. So give it up for RackSpace and Adam Hansen.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? So I'm going to first apologize because I'm going to naturally want to move away from this. So if I do, just start waving me back. I'm Adam Hansen. I'm a SMB advocate at RackSpace Hosting. One of the great things about RackSpace is we get to make up our own titles. Essentially what that means is I go out and kind of speak on behalf of SMBs and work with SMBs to really kind of figure out what their needs are, what problems they're facing, what tools do they need, and what things can we do to kind of help strengthen them and help them to really come to market with something strong. Obviously, there's a lot of cloud talk going on right now. It's kind of the silver bullet, the key marketing phrase, those types of things. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. For some credibility purposes, I attended BYU up in Provo, Utah. Finished there, opened up a business, still run 3 small businesses. If any of you have ever been to Fiesta at San Antonio and bought a beer, thank you for supporting my college fund, as well as the college fund of 183 people each semester at the Alamo Community Colleges. We run a nonprofit concession business. Fiesta last year, not too long ago, about a month and a half ago, we did a little over $680,000 in beer sales in 10 days. So it's one of those where I still run a lot of businesses, pest control business in the Dallas area as well as the San Antonio area, and various other businesses. Help consult with several other businesses. If anybody's in the market for an armored car, one of the businesses that I consult with is Texas Armoring. We'll take your Maserati and make it bulletproof. Some pretty cool stuff going on there. But when it comes to small businesses, I try to make sure that I am in the know and in what people are looking for. That being said, we're going to be talking about the cloud. Is it the almighty cloud? Is it really that great? And some of the things I'm going to be sharing with you are things that RackSpace has on our roadmaps. RackSpace went public August 8th, 2008. So those of you that bought Facebook stock know they could have picked a worse time. We started off at $12 and went down to $4.80. So what's that? Oh, did it? Oh, that's great. Yes. So I bought some. So it could be worse, and it does get better. But as far as that goes, this is just kind of a disclaimer that some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is forward-thinking stuff. In other words, it's my get out of jail free card that it may or may not necessarily happen. So live that one up there. All right. So according to Gartner, by 2014, there's going to be an increase it'll be an increase because we're at about $2 billion in spending now, but a spending of about $13 billion. And when we look at the cloud and when we look at what's going on in the cloud, we have the SaaS solution, which is software as a solution. You'll see a lot of different things in there like Salesforce. I tried to pull out companies that said they were software as a service. I'm always interested as I start talking to some of the CTOs and some of the folks at companies that claim to be software as a service companies that as you start to talk to them about their infrastructure, they're not really software as a service. So, it's some of those where some of those are true cloud companies, some maybe not so much. Then you have your platform as a service. This is always an interesting one. These are people that are going to offer you maybe a particular flavor of OS, Linux, Microsoft, Oracle, et cetera, companies where you can host things. They're, interestingly enough, per definition, Twitter qualifies as a platform as a service, which I find to be rather interesting and somewhat want to call BS on. But we have PaaS. Then we have infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, which is a cloud technology as well. This is kind of where RackSpace, Nebula, HP, some of the other providers are in. This is, the IaaS is kind of cloud at its core. Some hardcore developers will say it's not cloud, it's virtualization. To what you are correct. And so when RackSpace looks at cloud as a definition, we try to keep the term awesome in mind, OSSM. Is it on-demand, scalable, self-service, and metered pricing? Those are kind of the way that we define cloud at RackSpace. And for the most part, those folks that have been involved with OpenStack, which I'll talk a little bit about later, have also kind of looked at cloud technology. So when you look at my 3 clouds over here, you'll see that when you consider that definition, it really scales down the number of true cloud companies. And so that's why I always say, to some degree, there is some hype. How many of you guys have seen the Microsoft commercials where the mom's taking pictures and the kid's making faces and she says, "To the cloud," and she fixes the kid's face in the cloud? I still, to this day, have no clue how that means the cloud. And whenever I'm on a panel with Microsoft folks, I always bring that up, and they always try to shut me down. I just don't see how that makes any sense. And it's not like we need another company out there proclaiming that they're in the cloud. My favorite is Larry Ellison of Oracle. When asked about, are they planning on getting into the cloud? And he said, "We've redefined the cloud computing to include everything we already do." And, it would take somebody like Larry Ellison to say something like that and probably actually believe it with every fiber of his being. So we know that there's a lot of hype about the cloud, and that there's some stuff that, it just really isn't there. And so keeping that in mind, one of the things I always enjoy is good heckling. So if at any point, anything that I'm saying seems like something Larry would say, call me out on it. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions as I go along, because if not, I'll probably forget what the answer is by the time we get done. So just keep the heckling to a minimum so that I can at least keep tabs and make answers to it, stuff like that, as we kind of go forward. So when we look at where cloud growth is going, it's in the SMB areas. Gartner predicts, we'll see if they're right or not, that it really where the growth is in professional services and healthcare. Healthcare is quite the interesting conundrum when it comes to cloud technology. You have HIPAA compliance, you have personal data compliance, you have billing compliance, stuff like that. So a lot of the cloud technology and a lot of the cloud introduction that's going to be going on in the healthcare industry probably isn't going to necessarily be coming from third parties like RackSpace or Microsoft or some of the PaaS or IaaS companies. Where they're going to be coming in is those companies introducing cloud technology within their own data centers. RackSpace is doing some work with that. Has anybody heard of OpenStack? Familiar with it at all? So RackSpace right now has a few customers where they have cloud hosting with us on our public cloud, maybe some dedicated gear with us, and then within their own personal data center, their own gear running OpenStack that we manage and run for them. And so RackSpace is starting to get into that arena a little bit of helping these enterprise companies run cloud. Who better to do it? We've been doing it since March of 2006. We launched our cloud the same year that Amazon launched their cloud. They probably won't tell you that. They'll say that we started it probably back in 07 or 08. But that was kind of the early stages of cloud technology. And so as we see some of the healthcare industries doing those types of things, we'll probably also start to see some of the banks, some of those types of things happening where they're starting to introduce cloud technology through virtualization, stuff like that. It's interesting. I live down in San Antonio. If you don't know, Brooke Army Medical Center, which is where I was actually born, is the main care facility now for the federal government. All training will be going through there in terms of medical, which is kind of interesting. It wasn't too long ago that I went down there and actually talked to a lot of the CTO, CIO folks of the BRAC down there and some of the military folks about cloud technology and OpenStack. And interesting to learn that they've already started to dabble in it as well, with some of the folks from NASA that kind of peeled off during the NASA reorganization, I think is what they're titling it. Some would say downgrade or fires. But we also have the professional services. So to kind of give you an idea of what professional services are, insurance agents, investment folks, third-party consultants. Hey, I do web design. Hey, I do marketing consulting. Hey, I'll host your small site for you. We may do X, Y, or Z. These are folks that probably are very similar to you guys and what you guys are doing. And so as we look at where, the cloud is going in the next couple of years, we already see the penetration into the enterprise, and we know that with any economics that starts to now kind of downgrade into the small business folks. And so for some of you guys, this is probably you. At least I hope it is, or else I'm wasting my time and yours, and there's probably you could have slept in. But it's one of those where we're really starting to see this take place. And there's a lot of benefits from that. When we look at some of the benefits, it allows people to move from a capital expenditure to an operational expenditure. So to kind of give you an idea of what that means, I always liken it to my home mortgage. Because that's definitely an operational expenditure for me rather than a CapEx. Although we are lucky, my wife and I were on a game show and won $250,000, and so that did help when we were looking for a house. But instead of saying, hey, I'm going to buy this $200,000 house, maybe what I'll do is put a little bit down and then pay the bank each month. So that's kind of how that works. Instead of chunking out that big change, being able to just invest it for a little bit each month. Now, there's obviously things that come with that interest. And you may say, well, what is that interest that we're going to have to change with? Well, when it comes to utilizing a public cloud, if you're using a legacy software, no, you're not. You're going to have to update. You're going to have to make a change there. If you want to use the latest and greatest because my cousin Ted built this out in his garage in San Francisco, that's probably not going to happen until it becomes streamlined. So there are some things that you start to see that kind of help out and whatnot, but there is some cost to it. The ability to grow up and out. A lot of times we hear the Oprah effect. And we actually used to host a gal in Chicago. It was a talk show. And her producers used to tell folks, hey, look, if you're going to be on the show today, you really need to move things over to RackSpace. And we always kind of joked that that's where the phrase was coined. I'm not telling you who it was, though, that we hosted. And what we saw was when folks went on our show, it would just absolutely explode. A great example is a company called Gadget. Has anybody ever heard of Gadget, GDGT? They're a consumer electronics company, and that they rate consumer electronics, iPads, iPhones, those types of things, stuff like that. They've got a sweet API that they built onto other sites. Well, they do the Apple releases each year. It was kind of cool. This last April, I was in San Francisco for Game Developers Conference. It coincided with the iPad, or it's not the iPad 3, it's the new iPad release. And so I actually got to go to it. It was kind of cool. It was really neat. If you don't have an iPad 3 yet, man, those are fancy items. But Gadget is one of those companies that 2 years ago, when they first started doing the Apple releases, they had maybe 1 million people hitting their site. Not a whole lot of traffic in comparison to Apple and some of the other companies that are broadcasting those things. But over the last 3 years, they've become listed as the only company that during an Apple release hasn't gone down. Apple went down, if you'll recall the last couple of times they've had a release. Other big companies that broadcast it, even companies that host with RackSpace, had gone down. But Gadget did something different. So Gadget took RackSpace's support and said, how can I grow up and out for these types of things? And the last time when they aired the iPad 3, we had, I think it was 50 million concurrent connections. They blew through about 1,000 terabytes, which that's close to a petabyte of data in one day. Holy cow, they spun up from 4 servers to 81 servers in 13 minutes. And it was all done because they allowed RackSpace to kind of take that control and show them how to do it. So when we talk about growing up and out, there's a lot of experience that you can draw on from folks in cloud technology to help out with that. Which kind of leads to the next one, agility in production of environment. To be able to sustain that kind of traffic and that kind of bandwidth takes a lot of fine tuning, and it takes a lot of help for stuff like that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank. Does anybody watch Shark Tank? Anybody see Villy Customs, actually out of Dallas here on the episode a couple weeks ago? Great example of agility in production of environment. Villy Customs has had a few people invest in him. Obviously, Mark Cuban, Barbara Cochran from the show, one of them. Another local Dallas person. So they've had 3 IT guys working on their website. And so the night the episode airs, someone decides, hey, you know what, at the last minute, let's add a like us on Facebook HTML flash thing that pops up. It'll be awesome. We'll get all of this natural traffic to our Facebook page that we'll be able to retain and market out to. Geniuses. At 7:45, Fleetwood Hicks walks out in Shark Tank, and the site starts getting bombarded. I had just got back from London the day before. You can imagine I was a bit on the tired side, and was going to bed at about 7:15, which was fantastic because I was waking up at 5 and running and feeling great about myself. I'm now back to my midnight to 7 a.m. schedule, fat and happy. But as I was going to bed, I see a text message from Mark Cuban and his IT guy. The site's down. Oh, man. And so I text back without even thinking about it. It must be something on your site. It can't be us, which was brave. And then the next thing I did was fire up the laptop VPN and look. And sure enough, the servers, everything was fine. Nodes were working and operational. What had happened is on the Facebook page like thing that they added at the last minute, if you clicked, hey, yeah, I'll like you on Facebook, no problems. You continued on to the website. Everything was honky-dory. And I thought this was a brilliant catch, honestly. If you clicked no, you got the eternal loop, which eventually kicked out a 404 error. So some would say good marketing, some would say bad coding. Consider it what you want. But we had it fixed in 23 minutes. And part of that 23 minutes was calling and getting somebody on the phone that knew Linux and being able to say, hey, is it okay with your permission for me to look at the code? Looking at the code and then saying, hey, there's an error here. Do you want me to plug, unplug this and pull it off, or do you want it to keep running because it's in a marketing campaign? No, go ahead and unplug it and see if it works. So when you look at agility in production and environment and stuff like that, there's a lot to be gained by utilizing a large cloud company for that. You also have the benefit of hybrid technology. So RackSpace is a little bit different in the market on this one. We have several data centers throughout the world. Right now we have cloud environments in our London, Chicago, and Dallas data center. Actually not too far down the road from here. And the neat thing about this is that within that same data center, we also have our dedicated clusters. So you've got your cloud clusters over here. You got your dedicated clusters over here. If I sell widgets online, I want my main base as far as traffic hit to come to the public cloud so that instead of calling in and saying, hey, I need another one of those $2,000 servers kicked up. When can I have that done? Oh, 3 days. Oh, fantastic. I can just click add a server, add a server, add a server. Go to my cloud load balancing, add the IP addresses, and move on. So there's some benefits there. So I handle that, with the front end cloud. But I take payments, and so I'm going to have to store credit card data. Eek. I'm going to need a dedicated solution for that. Not because I want to, because let's be honest, who wants to spend what's probably going to end up costing you $4,500 a month for something to run a PCI compliant solution? But you're going to have to do it if that's what you're going to do. And so within RackSpace, you can literally set that 100 feet away in our dedicated cluster. Traffic never leaves the data center. Traffic stays secure over that connection there. So there's some benefits there. Other companies will allow you to also affix dedicated gear to their private or to their public cloud via VPN, public or private IP addresses, stuff like that. So you kind of benefit from having that ability. And then it's self-service. You'll notice I put not at RackSpace because while it is self-service, call us, we'll do it for you. That's why people come to RackSpace, but you're able to build and scale at your own pace. You don't have to kind of say, hey, I want to be in this slot here, and so in order to do that, I have to spend X or I have to get X. And for some folks, this is going to be a daring statement. By moving to a public cloud, it's more secure. Now, some of you secure folks or security folks are thinking, that Adam's off his rocker. And some will contest that that is true. But you've got 4,300 folks at RackSpace that are constantly going through training. We have our own Cisco certified instructors. We have our own Linux certified instructors. We have our own Windows certified instructors that then go in and teach and certify all of our rackers, or our employees as we call them. And so it's one of those where you've got a lot more capable folks that are going to be able to talk to you about security than maybe what you're used to or what you're doing. In fact, yesterday on the drive up from San Antonio, my BlackBerry started going crazy in Belton. We had 13 social phishing attempts at RackSpace, all caught within about 3 or 4 seconds. Some places you may not catch it that fast. Mass ticket was issued, everything was squared away. Now, we've talked about the good things. This is where you'll learn that why Adam Hansen only spent 2 years in sales at RackSpace, because I always lead with the good things and follow up with the bad things. And in sales, that's normally not good, but I believe in full disclosure. So there's some bad things, right? Dependence and third party and their SLA, or service level agreements. I don't know about you, but I hate relying on other people. And that's probably one of the reasons that I've always stayed as an S&B person, because I know that someone's not going to do it as good as I am. Or at least that's what I sometimes believe or think. I used to have a taco stand at a nightclub in San Antonio, and I'll be danged, if I worked, I knew that I was going to hustle, and I knew that I was going to make a ton of money. But if I had to hire somebody else because a buddy was getting married and I was out of town or something like that, I knew they weren't going to hustle quite like I was. Another example of this is the data center over in Grapevine. We had on contract with the city of Grapevine, who we were relying on, to put up a 4-foot cement barrier behind or in front of our 2 power poles for the data center. And in 2007, a guy went into anaphylactic shock, pegged one of the power poles. No big deal, right? Well, for him it is. But for us, we have our backup power pole. Anybody know how long it takes to recycle or to cycle back on air conditioning for a 5,000 square foot facility in Texas in June? 25 minutes. And it was 106 degrees outside. So 20 minutes goes by. We're on battery. Everything's going fine. Not a big deal. Minute 27, boom, the AC starts to kick back on. At that exact time, Grapevine Fire Department determines, you know what? This is a risk having that second power pole so close. We're going to cut power to it. According to the SLA with the city of Grapevine, they're supposed to notify us before they cut that power. However, one of the power cords was dangling onto the truck. They felt that it was probably more important to go ahead and just cut the power rather than call us, so as to save the lives of the guy in the truck and some of the firemen, to which we can't fault them too much for that. So they cut it. Boom. Off we go back to battery. So what happens is right as the AC is about to kick on, it dies again. We have 25 minutes before the AC kicks on. At that point, temperature in the data center was 96 degrees. Does anybody know what point failure starts on hardware? About 100, 107 inside the facility. So what we did is an email went out to RackSpace that said, hey, guess what? You're not going to be getting email for the next little bit. Bye-bye. We killed all of our internal items except for our website because we have support chat going on. We killed all of those things. And then we started calling up customers in the data center saying, hey, here's what's going on. Do you mind if we turn off your server? And for the ones that said no, we says, well, we can appreciate that. Just know that in about 20 minutes, your hard drive's probably going to melt anyways. So what do you want to do? And that month, we issued almost 100% credit back to everybody within the Dallas data center in terms of credit for their accounts. Now, a lot of people were upset. Oh my gosh, you let me down. I was down for 5.5 hours. I was down for 6 hours. I was down for 7 hours. Da 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 da. We proactively called them. We proactively emailed them. A lot of them our CEO talked to. I remember I got to work that morning at 8 a.m. I was scheduled to leave at 4. At 2:30 in the morning when I finally left, I had to walk by the CEO's office just because it happened to be right there. And by office, what I mean is cubicle, 3 down from me. I used to laugh. People would call and ask for the CEO, and I'd look over at him. He'd just be shooting the breeze with somebody. He's on a plane right now. I'm sorry. But as I walked by, he was still on the phone talking to people. He was talking with the press. I don't think he went to bed for 2 days when that happened. And so when we talk about dependence on third party and their SLA, hey, look, things like that happen. Amazon had their big debacle a couple years ago in April, on the East Coast. SoftLayer has had problems. Microsoft has had problems because it's Microsoft, just kidding. But every big provider is going to suffer some of the same problems that anybody else will. And the difference is you're not going to be able to fix anything. You're going to have to just sit there by the phone or wait for the ticket to figure out what's going on. There's also a lack of security standards, and I know that this contradicts my, hey, by going to a third party, you may be more secure. But what happens is RackSpace may be used to doing it the RackSpace way. Amazon, the Amazon way. Microsoft, the Microsoft way. And so what happens is you have all of these folks that are building out and doing things the way that they're normally used to. And so what happens is if you try to move from place to place, you normally see that there's a little bit different of standards with security. Also, if you're trying to move strictly to the cloud, you may find out that you still need hardware and some of the folks to run that on your site. One of the great examples I think of is Komen San Antonio. Komen San Antonio just recently moved all of their email and file sharing over to RackSpace this last month. And the gal says to me, so I can get rid of this now, right? And I says, well, it depends. What else are you doing with that server? She goes, oh, well, we use it for da-da-da-da-da. I says, well, it sounds like then you probably still need to keep that server. And the person that's maintaining it, maybe you can lower some of the costs there, though. So what you'll find is that it doesn't fix everything there. And my favorite is the great thing about, or where it also hurts, is that you can have any color you want as long as it's black. You're going to find that happening. Even within RackSpace, when it comes to the OS, there's going to be specific OSs. Linux 4.0 was just killed officially by Red Hat in terms of support. And we have, I think it's 213,000 customers that run it. Now, it would have been real easy to say, hey guys, sorry, Red Hat quit supporting it, upgrade, good luck. But that's a good chunk of our business. And so, for us, it's a little bit different. But for a lot of companies, they're going to tell you, hey, you're out of luck. These are the OSs that we serve. This is what we do. If you want that extra thing, go somewhere else. Which kind of leads to the next one, which is vendor lock-in. So let's say I do stick to those flavors, and I do stick to what the folks tell me to do. Now I'm locked in there. Now I've got nowhere to go. And what that does is it creates that last point, which is a lack of standards. There's no, hey, here's how things are to be done. And so what you find is people start deciding who they're going to turn to and what they're going to do. As a young man, my dad is retired Air Force. In '85, our family moved to Chicago. I had to make the decision, do I become a Spurs fan or a Bulls fan? And in the 90s, it played out well because I became a Spurs or a Bulls fan. However, it's not been too hot for me lately, although the Bulls are coming back. But just as a young man, I had to make a decision. Do I like Chicago's or Texas's teams? I went with Chicago, and because of that, I've been a Cubs fan ever since. I've got vendor lock in there, and I went with the loser. But I love the Cubs. And so essentially what you're going to have to do is kind of decide your team too. Do you go with VMware, RackSpace, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, SoftLayer, HP, Dell, all the different folks out there that provide these things? What you're essentially going to have to do is decide, who am I going to go with? Because if you go to the internet and go to Google and do a Google search or a Bing search or whatever you use, and say, how do I migrate from RackSpace to Amazon? There are going to be as many answers as there are pages on the internet. And the reason that I say that is no move is the same. And it's going to depend on what you've built up and what you've done and what the vendor has had you do as well to stay there. And so what you start to see happen is that public lock-in prevailing. And so you've got folks that, hey man, I'm only Windows Azure because I can't leave it now. If I do a migration, I'm going to be hosed by licensing costs or other things. If I use Force.com in any one of their avenues, I'm going to be stuck there because nobody else really does anything like they do. AWS, man, their APIs are so unique and so set on their own that if I move to any other provider, I may have a ton of coding that I need to adjust and change because of APIs. And same with Google. Their app engine isn't going to necessarily speak well and do well with some of the other providers out there. And we saw this happen with Microsoft back in the day, and Microsoft really got the lock-in because of the folks that had to use Microsoft. And we see that Microsoft was such the big solution back in the day. And what really turned Microsoft upside down was Linux. And by using an open source solution, it allowed for a lot of people to change the way they went about doing things. And so what Windows and Linux did back in the day, RackSpace is looking at OpenStack as the big game changer. So as you consider your cloud technology, what we would suggest is consider companies utilizing OpenStack. And I know that this is probably going to feel like a marketing pitch or a sales pitch or something like that, but let's go through a couple of examples here. Let's see what an open federated cloud looks like. I have a public cloud, HP, Dell, RackSpace, SoftLayer, whoever, right, that's utilizing OpenStack. And then I have my private cloud, because for whatever reason I've got a compliance issue, or I want to still do some of the things internally. By utilizing OpenStack on both solutions, APIs stay the same, coding stays the same, software stays the same, infrastructure stays the same, a lot of things stay the same. And what I'm able to do is use tools like CloudKick, CA, BMC, System Center, things like that, to monitor all of these things rather than having to rely on the monitoring from company X or company Y. Other providers, let's say I have a public cloud with RackSpace and a private cloud at Dell or HP. I'm still able to utilize OpenStack and keep that there. Or if I have a public cloud with RackSpace and a public cloud with HP, I'm still able to utilize OpenStack. And so my coding stays the same, my APIs stay the same, everything stays the same. But let me tell you a little bit about what RackSpace's pitch is going to be. RackSpace has never been, or we've never considered ourselves an infrastructure as a service company. We've never looked at ourselves as a hosting company. If anything, we've always looked at ourselves as a service company first and everything that we do. And the reason that I say that is because some of the initiatives that RackSpace has taken on as a company aren't specific to hosting. So what makes RackSpace a little bit different is going to be our fanatical support. A great example. Let's say that I have a data center and it's getting kind of full. I'm a large company out of the Seattle area, and I've got this new game solution launching in the 90s, and so I contract with RackSpace and say, hey, I'm going to need probably about 6 or 7 racks of dedicated gear to make this thing run well. And they get it set up and it's running like a champ. All of a sudden, the new CFO is named, and the CFO says, hey, you know, that was great back then, but we've actually doubled our data center size, and now we've got racks and racks and racks just sitting there empty. And we're spending close to $1 million a month with RackSpace. Let's bring it back in-house. So they decide, all right, we'll bring it back in-house. In doing so, they have a major debacle. Customer data is lost and stolen, and their gaming site is down for almost 2 days. That's when the CTO and the CMO get to beat out the CFO and say, that looks great on paper because we're a publicly traded company, but we're moving it back where it works. And they compromise and instead have RackSpace come into their data center and build out an OpenStack environment there. They now are able to utilize, make the CFO happy because they're utilizing the data center area to help save some money there. They're still keeping some of the stuff on the RackSpace public cloud and private cloud, so they're able to make the product folks happy and the customers ultimately happy. And RackSpace is still helping on both sides. We're in their data center, helping them build out their cloud and helping show them how to do it, as well as doing it on our own side. So when we look at what makes RackSpace different, it's that fanatical support. Everybody at RackSpace, when we have customers that come to us, we will generally stop what we're doing to make sure that things are being taken care of. And the reason is because at the end of the day, we are your employee. You give us a paycheck, we provide a service. We are pretty familiar with how that works. And we know that in this day and age, a paycheck is a great thing. Not everybody has a job. And so when a customer comes to us and says, hey, I'm having this problem, we look at it as if we can't fix that for them, we run the risk of losing our paycheck. Because at the end of the day, if you can't be up and running, you can't make the money that you need in order to pay us. And so fanatical support is one of those things where it's kind of this eternal loop between us and our customers and making sure that things are being taken care of. And the other thing is that we've been doing this for quite some time. And so we start to recognize patterns and problems. If someone calls in and says, hey, here's a problem that I have, instantly 2 or 3 other problems queue off in our minds, and we proactively ask about them. We also have a seamless portfolio between our hosting environment and our cloud computing services. Now, they're not always on the same page. Because of cloud computing, there is some streamlining that takes place there. You won't find Red Hat 4 within the cloud computing, again, because it's not being supported. However, if you were to call in and say, man, I really need it, we'd probably still give it to you. But what you start to see is that seamless portfolio where I can run it in my data center, I can run it in your data center, I can go to HP from here, I can go to Dell from here. And what we want to do is make sure that folks are being able to utilize who they need to utilize at the appropriate time. But then also the open technologies at web scale ensures the value and reliability. If you can't get it at RackSpace, we know you're going to be able to get it somewhere else. So we're going to be on our A game. The other folks recognize that as well. Look at the HP campaign on their OpenStack cloud over the last quarter. It's been interesting to see how big that's become for them. And maybe I just see it because it's my industry and that's what I tend to notice and see. But a year ago, there was no marketing for it. There was nothing going on. 6 months ago even, they had it, but they weren't really branding it. Once it became public, man, it has just skyrocketed. It really started to kind of do well for them and kick out as well. So that's how RackSpace looks at winning this. And we know that at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. And the way I see it is that's a lot of times similar to the SMB person or the SMB business. You don't win out because of your size. Maybe you do. You don't win out because of the hardware that you're using. Hey, I've got all Dell 2950s over here. You don't win out because of anything other than the person trusts you and your business. And ultimately, RackSpace is no different. 12 years ago, we were an SMB with 3 college kids running out of their cousin's garage near Trinity University in San Antonio. So we know what it's like to be there. And when we look at, if you ever come to RackSpace, one of the things that we do is, depending on your tenureship, at 5 and 10 years, you get a flag to hang over your desk that signifies how long you've been at RackSpace. And when you look at our executive, I always call it mahogany row, even though it's the same cubicle systems that we all use, and it's like 1 row down from me. You'll see over all of the executive desks 10-year flags. And so they are folks that were with RackSpace when it was like, holy cow, we're making $1 million a year now. Booyah. I'm going to go get that used BMW on the south side that I saw for sale. To where they are now, it's quite interesting. It's quite the different story. But they still remember what it was like, and they still remember those days when it was, hey, check out this sweet new apartment I got, to now it's like, I think I need a new boat. And so it's one of those where it wasn't too long ago that they were there, and those are the folks that are still leading and managing RackSpace today. The other thing that really separates us, as I mentioned, is that support. Is we are intense about it, and we make each other accountable for it, and we make sure that each other is doing their absolute best to make sure that we're doing what's right for the customer. So we've got 4,300, I guess now we're almost at 4,600 honey badgers floating out and through the world. We have offices in Australia, Benelux. We're opening an office in Zurich, which I hope I get. We've got data centers in Hong Kong, London. We've got a data center opening in Australia soon, Dallas, Chicago. Offices now in San Francisco, Virginia, stuff like that. We're just growing and growing and growing. And the reason that is because of the support and people recognizing it. If you feel at any point I led you astray and that I didn't tell the truth, here's my contact information. That is my desk phone. I am on the road about 60% of the time. However, I have it forwarded to my cell phone. In addition to that, there's my email address. I'd love to tell you that I have an admin that fields email for me. That's my wife. And so I don't. So I'll respond personally. And then if you get me on Twitter, I'm forced socially to respond as well. So contact me if you feel I was untruthful about it, or if you have any questions. We're always here to help out. Specifically, if you have questions about how RackSpace can help, visit us at RackSpace.com. We've got a ton of stuff there, from tools partners, different solutions to help out, stuff like that. You know, you're going to find an answer there to help out. That being said, any questions? Sweet. Oh, one in the back. Go. Okay. So she says she has people that are always trying to convince her to switch to Linode. Linode is a great service. It's very inexpensive. Personally, from what I've seen, at RackSpace with our cloud environment, if we virtualize a server, let's say a 32 gig server, what we do is we place hard caps on that. If you purchase a 2 gig instance with X amount of disk space, we'll let you spin up past that if there's room on the server. If not, we won't let you spin up past that. Linode doesn't do a lot of that kind of regulating on that stuff, and so you start to see a lot more of what we call the bad neighbor problems. Anybody here in 2116 next to my room last night? Man, I had some bad neighbor problems at midnight last night. Man, they were so loud. They were definitely having a fight. It was actually kind of good. I'm glad I woke up for it. But it was one of those things where it affected me negatively, and what you'll see happen over there is probably something similar to that if you start to get any traffic. And that's, again, why I say, you know, is the cloud for everybody? That may be perfect for you. It's inexpensive. If you can stay within the parameters, stick with it. I wouldn't try to convince you to go to something more expensive if it wasn't a good fit for you.